Uhuru! Uhuru! Fist up! Fist up! Ease where they do. E Africa. All right, comrades. Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa. Hands off Africa. Hands off Uhuru. All right. Thank you, Uhuru. And I'm so happy to see you today. We are welcoming you back into the house in Blackville. Right on. Comrades, welcome to day 2 of this amazing convention. Impedum Convention number 23. Uhuru. And bring you up to date on everything that was a recap from yesterday's wonderful day is our own President Matsamela Odom. Uhuru.
All right, Uhuru, everybody. Uhuru. So I sat back and I thought about this. I think it's important for people to understand that the seriousness of this venture, not like, what I mean by that is that this isn't like playing. This is Africans taking it upon themselves to prepare to govern, to be self-governing. That's the seriousness of this venture. So this venture is in the realm of the 1920 convention held by Marcus Garvey, in which thousands of people from all around the world came to decide the political future of African people and to put forward an agenda through which African people will be freed. That's really the significance of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement Convention. I remember in 2020, we did what was probably the most significant changes to the Impedum Constitution in a very long time. And it was the latter part of our convention. It extended over maybe even 3 hours over what it was supposed to go to. And we did not lose people who were watching. We did not lose people in attendance. It was a lot of people. That was during the time of COVID, right? So people were sitting at home. There's a lot of people, and it actually kept going up. And asked some of the people, what drew them to this? The motions, the rules and procedures to how to make the resolutions, and they said they loved it. These are Africans who said they watch C-SPAN all the time. Some Africans are just but seeing colonial governmental convenings. So to see us be able to do these things for ourselves really underscores really the seriousness that chairman says, negating the verdict of colonialism over ourselves. So that is really the importance and the seriousness of this. And that really, for me, underscores the seriousness of what we did yesterday in planning the future for ourselves and for African people. So that came to me, and I really want to share that as a reflection of yesterday. The way through which we look back, also to look forward in many ways, understanding that what's being asked for us right now is what was always been asked for International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. We've defined deepening the counteroffensive as recruitment into Impedum, as branch building, as campaigns in defense of the African community, African working class, right? These are the things that are defining the counteroffensive that the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement is waging. This is what we talked about yesterday, and this is what we'll be moving towards today. So I just want to say thank you for everyone for returning, and just salute everyone in viewership virtually, but of course all the people who made the trek here to Aquaba Hall, Center of the African Revolution in North. So Uhuru. So next up, I think we have the African Nation fight song. Uhuru.
Please stand.
Please stand.
Africa, we are winning. Shout Uhuru for our freedom. We are winning. We'll dance and sing songs when revolution's won. We are winning. Africa's best. Patrice Lumumba's life won't be in vain. We are winning. Keep up the work in Marcus Garvey's name. We are winning. Independent and free is what we will be. We are winning. Africa will bask in our victory. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom to organization. Socialist world, our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning.
Honor of how we start off yesterday, looking at the founding document for Impedum Chairman's speech at the keynote address at the founding convention for the National People's Democratic Uhuru movement. We can come back to, we had a special gift for Chairman. So we will present it. We want to present Chairman with a special gift. So folks, let's give, so here's a frame reprint of the commemorative poster for the founding convention for the National People's Democratic Uhuru movement. So we want to honor Chairman with that. Whoa.
Thank you so much.
Uhuru. All right.
Thank you so much.
So I just say, there's some gems inside that Burning Spirit newspaper. Just know the longest running Black Power newspaper still in print since 1968, the oldest institution in the Uhuru movement. And I think it's significant when you understand in building a revolutionary party, the role that a paper plays in building a revolutionary party, the Burning Spirit newspaper. So sometimes I just spend my weekends going through the archive that you can find on the University of Florida archive. So I will go ufdc.ufl.edu. That's University of Florida Digital Collections. So go there, and as much as possible, the collection of the Burning Spirit newspaper is there online. There might be a couple things out there. So if you are some people who have some prints from the 1970s, I would suggest contact the Burning Spirit Media over in St. Petersburg, Florida, the Burning Spirit newspaper headquarters, and get those, or just walk into any local organizing center around the US or around the world where the Uhuru movement is doing work, and bring those in. Because I saw a professor the other day. He told me he's a collector of radical newspapers, and he said that he's got some old prints that he's collected. So I'm going to look at them, and if he's got some stuff we need, have them send it our way so we can get digitized. But like I said, go check that out. That's where that came from. So we're happy to give that to Chairman. There's prints you all can purchase on the back table as well. So now we're going to move towards the reports. We'll first begin with my report. So there's been some changes to the schedule. We'll begin with the Impedum President report. We'll hear a report following that from Director Tafari McGarry from APSP Africa region. and on the work of impeding on the continent. So I say that, you know, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement has answered the call to defend the African People's Socialist Party. As we know, on July 29, 2022, the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru Movement sustained the most significant attack against the African Liberation Movement since the military defeat of the African Revolution of the 1960s. Commonly known as the Black Power movement. So this was like I said, the most significant attack as we see now, in a way that is now defining the attacks against other people. They hit us with the economic attack. They hit other comrades and other organizations with the economic attack. So this is, like I said, the most significant attack. So over 30 years ago, as we talked about yesterday, you know, impeding was formed for the purpose of defending the African community against the counterinsurgency that was waged against our liberation struggles, and also to bring the masses of African people back into political life. So the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, we understand that self-determination is the highest form of democracy. So we talked about this yesterday, that at the founding convention for impeding, then which was named the National People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, NPDM, with an N, on April 6, 1991 in Chicago, a chairman mandated that NPDM organize mass campaigns in defense of the national democratic rights of our people. He writes, as a part of the process to expose the U.S. counterinsurgency, leading to the abrogation of many of those democratic rights, and that will shatter the democratic facade of the colonialist white ruling class state. Right. So Chairman made yesterday the analogy that I felt was brilliant, right? Because the point here is like I said, exposing the democratic, exposing the facade of democracy, right? Because the point here is that when we do what we do, you know, the colonizers call that a threat to democracy. And I guess, yes, it's a threat to their system, right? If they're defining their system as democracy, yes, what we do is a threat to their system. But it's not the threat to the self-determination, the true democracy of African and colonized people and all freedom-loving people around the world. You know, freedom for the enslaved can't be freedom for the slave master. It can't. You can't have both. So Chairman was talking about something that I found remarkable. We're talking about a stop sign, like African community go, and if we think that a stop sign needs to be put up or a street sign needs to be put up, we put up our own street sign. And expose the state, make the state say, no, you all can't have the stop sign. People are going to have to go and, you know, state says, let people get hit. You all cannot have a stop sign. But the thing is, the question there is not about stop sign. The question is about control, right? The question is about control. That's what we talk about, power, control, African control of the African community. You know, I remember when I was talking about this, I remember when 18th Avenue in St. Pete was renamed Tyron Lewis Boulevard. And I remember reading, I saw all the lights and the cameras and the press conferences. I was like, oh man, they got that street name changed, you know? And then I went down there and I realized, and then, you know, then I realized it got taken down. And I said, man, why they take it down? I thought they put it up. And, I mean, you know, not understanding what was going on, that look, African people named it Tyron Lewis Boulevard Avenue, Tyron Lewis Boulevard, right? But nevertheless, look, the city came and tore it down. But if you right now write to the Burning Spirit newspaper and you put Tyron Lewis Boulevard on there, the post office will deliver it to the Burning Spirit newspaper, even though it's not on the street. That's self-government. That's self-government, but it's not just self-government in this sort of like, you know, in California, you know, we're gonna move up to Humboldt County and live in an RV next to the Pacific and eat fresh salmon or something like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that when we're free. But I mean, we talking about a form of freedom that contends with the colonial state. So I really appreciated Chairman in that conversation we had last night. Uhuru. So, impediment has embraced in many ways the hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa counteroffensive in the defense of the African People's Socialist Party. The Hands Off Uhuru campaign, it was revealed, had organized more than 100 events since the attack. I mean, that's like 2 events a week at least. And I think that's at least, because I don't know if that's even, I mean, we gotta probably say probably a couple hundred events, because it's been up there. It's been up there. And impediment has played a vital role in this defense, right? So, but the question now is, how are we going to deepen our counteroffensive? And like we said, the way to deepen it is through branch building, which we'll talk about today, through recruitment, through economic development, through waging the campaigns in defense of the African working class. So last September, I was appointed the newest president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And impedim's mission has been recruitment, branch building, and campaign development. Within days of the convention, I remember when Feist sent me, I think it was actually September 9th, because it was that Wednesday or something. I know exactly where it was. When he sent me the text message asking if the ACG campaign had been concluded. He said he went to the website, he got an error message. I told him, no, the campaign's still going on. Actually, we're looking for somebody. Because first I was like, no, it's still going on. Why? You trying to be the coordinator? And he says, no, went to the page, and it's gone. So I understood that it's under the guise of change.org, the Federal Bureau of Investigation launched an attack against impediment, right? Forcibly disappearing upwards of 100,000 signatures of international support for our campaign. Subsequent research showed that the FBI launched that attack leading up to our convention. So it was within August of 2022 when they launched that attack, trying to scrub the internet of any presence of impedim's leading campaign in an attempt to rewrite history. That's what is so important about what we're doing here right now. Is we are Chairman has defined the struggle against colonialism as a struggle over history as well, right? We're re-entering African people into history, right? So much that, because right now in Florida, everyone thinks it's Florida, but it's not just about Florida. Every single state in this United States, attempts to use African history and African people to make history for the settler colonial nation. Every single state. I mean, in my state, the Democrats have passed laws that everyone has to take, Africana studies classes when they go to college, but then they dictate what's inside the Africana studies classes the same way DeSantis does, right? So you got African liberals who say things like, Black history is American history, but do you want your history to be the history of the slave masters? Do you want your history to be the history of the slave masters, of a colonizer, of a brutal rapist like Thomas Jefferson? Is that your history? No, right? So we are rewriting history from the perspective of a people that intend to be free. However, as many of us know, the internet is forever. So they tried to scrub our stuff, and some of y'all know the wrong way. The internet is forever, right? So they tried to scrub it. Diligent research. Shout out to Comrade Logan, impediment member, works with the Burning Spear newspaper, who did this thing called Wayback Machine and stuff like that. Found the evidence, put it back out in front of the people. As well as thousands of international comments of support for the campaign. These things have been recovered. The African Church Genocide Campaign, which will have a panel, goes back to 2015. And I remember when I signed it myself. I remember when I signed it, it was a comrade who was in San Diego at that time and hit me with the flyer and I signed the petition. It was important. It was an important step in my political future. But importantly, what it did, just like as an extension of the tribunal, World Tribunal against for reparations to African people, it placed the charge of genocide into the hands of the African working class, right? So for all practical purposes, the campaign went back to 1991. So yesterday, once again, we heard Chairman say that the NPDM must initiate a democratic counteroffensive against the U.S. counterinsurgency. We must file international and U.S.-based suits against the U.S. charging it with the violation of the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. That's African Church Genocide Campaign, 1991. So some of the work that we saw around that, on April 29th in Los Angeles, I organized a panel in front of a board of the United Nations experts on the question of mass imprisonment and genocide of African people. The following day, Comrade Kabula Mutombo in Chicago testified in front of that same panel of experts on the attacks against our movement. From May 30th to June 2nd, myself, Comrade Lisa Davis attended what's called the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent at the United Nations in New York, taking the question there, so much to the extent that she'll probably talk about it on a subsequent panel about how when we were up there, she'll tell you, let's just say they were prepared for us to be there. When they were policing how we talk to people, how we put out information. Lisa could talk about that sort of stuff. But we weren't able to even get the hands off Uhuru demands into an official report presented to the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent by way of one of the organizations who hosted us, who hosted the panel that Kabula spoke to, the Women's All Points Bulletin. So that was important work. The local branches of NPDM are doing magnificent work. And NPDM has embraced the regional strategy. What I say in magnificent work, fighting for organization underneath what chairman has called for us. And that organization is important that we're establishing. That's an important endeavor that's being established by NPDM right now, because that leaves a legacy. That leaves a legacy, no good work come unpromoted. So you do the hard work here, you leave the legacy behind. So when you might take another position, but you leave something behind. If you don't leave nothing behind, then what, as an organizer, then what were you doing? Were you organizing? That's important for us to understand. So I see some serious organizing going, and we're going to give out some awards today to honor some of that serious organizing that's been happening. NPDM organized the Get on the Bus campaign. That's where we met Isaiah. Isaiah was here yesterday. That's where we initially met Isaiah in Washington, D.C. out of Springfield. Now NPDM is working to grow its presence in Springfield, Illinois, by way of that work. And we brought some people, but this year we talking, this is a historic event, November 4th, 2023, Washington, D.C. If your big mama go to a church and they got a church van that's sitting right there in the yard and don't do nothing, but maybe, pick up kids from daycare or something like that, you need to talk to them deacons. Talk to them deacons at that church and get them keys. That truck been written off. Talk to them deacons. Talk to your cousin that got a CDL license, and we need to be filling them vans, them trucks, those passenger buses, and headed towards DC. We'll talk about how to get that done, and we got 2 months to do it, and I know we can. I mean, sure, I'm gonna keep it real. All the people I seen in silver last week going to them Beyonce concerts, I didn't even know Beyonce concert was going on. You telling me we can't organize them people? Them people need to put on some red, black, and green and go to Washington, D.C. Because I looked up, I said, what's going on? The mothership and came, what's all these people running around in silver? I had no idea what was going on, honestly. So we need to organize. The resources are there. Become one with the people. Become one with the people, and let's push this campaign. However, impediment is growing. In North America, impediment is located in 75 cities, 25 states. So that's important. Impediment is located in at least 7 countries around the world, including Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, South Africa, Sierra Leone, Namibia, England, and it's growing. Right now, I want to give a shout out to Comrade Shania out of England, fighting a Black community control of housing campaign, of which we need to throw our international support behind. We've expanded our membership inside colonial prisons, renamed our George Jackson work to George Jackson Desi Woods work. Talk about that, why we did that. So that's important. We have comrades in federal prison in South Carolina, comrades in state prison in Louisiana and Oklahoma, not only receiving the spear, but holding their own study groups, right? Turning those colonial prisons into African international universities. That is what is meant. I got a cousin who just got out after he was in there for 13 years. So he just got out after 13 years. His first question is, can he still receive the spear for free in transitional housing? I said, yeah, sure, you ain't free, brother. You get it, give me the address. Give me that. So he in transitional housing, right? Comrade, what's his name? Comrade Bakri says, and other people talk about, people passing around the spear until it disintegrates. Another comrade that was in South Carolina left his whole stack of books on the cell block. So the political life that this is International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement's reach underneath the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. So coming out of this convention, we have the goal of purchasing a permanent organizing center in Kokosi, South Africa, which was the site of the 2023 Impediment pre-convention. You'll hear about that work. Now, there's too many events to list that the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement have been involved in. But like I said, the important thing here is to move from simply to be community organizing, right? We need to leave, so we need to build branch building. We can organize events until the cows come home, go home tired and not meet our political objectives. So we'll be talking about what that looks like. Impediment branches have held events too long to list, as I've noted. New York doing amazing work in October 2023. Comrade Oronde spoke at a rally on the FBI harassment of Cuban solidarity workers. From California to New York to South Africa and Impediment branches have organized Martin Luther King Day actions, African Martyrs Day events. There was Black Power Weekend that took place in Alabama, in which we observed Mafundi Lake Day, and then the next day did outreach to the Bloody Sunday annual convening that they have over in Selma. Returning just weeks later for the Region Bank protest. New York, again, Black Power, building Black Power in Brownsville at the Brownsville Heritage House. The lead organizing lady over the Brownsville Heritage House, even they recruited her into the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. So amazing work is being held in Boston. Comrades we held Juneteenth mobilizations in Boston. They held a Juneteenth mobilization, not yet Uhuru, at the MLK monument over there in the Boston Commons, as well as comrades holding outreach, getting out thousands of Hands Off Uhuru flyers and Petum brochures as the rain came down on them at the International African Arts Festival. But like I said, the question is, what are we doing to deepen the counteroffensive, right? To deepen the counteroffensive, we need to take the Revolutionary National Democratic Program out to the people. Educate ourselves on what the Revolutionary National Democratic Program is and how to place it into practice. Following the murders of Tyree Nichols, and then we raised, and Petum held webinars raising the demand for Black community control of police. As I talked to you all, we got the stuff going on against gentrification. So, and Petum has had a great year of work, but this is really only the tip of the iceberg. Once we place this revolutionary science of African internationalism fully into play, we're going to see, this spark grow into a wildfire. So I'm really appreciative of my first year as president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. Appreciating all the other people doing the heavy lifting with myself. Like somebody said, one person can't lift a couch by themselves. Even though when I was young, still playing nose guard, I could throw a couch on my shoulder, but I'm smart enough to know, don't lift no couch by myself no more, right? But one person more than likely can't lift a couch by themselves, but two or more people can, right? Easily. So the point there being, let's continue to do that heavy lifting together. Uhuru. So is Tafari available? Tafari's not on. Oh, so. Huh? Oh, I didn't. That's a good point. Yeah, so as a part of the taking a Revolutionary National Democratic Program out to the people, we've had weekly political educations and webinars every Thursday. They are at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I mean, the point here not being just a normal talk session like people are used to, but tackling the popular issues in relationship to the Revolutionary National Democratic Program and putting a way forward around that. So, and attaching it to a political way forward. So that's been the importance of those Thursday studies. And, that's something we're going to continue to do. I can open it up for some brief questions unless Tafari is here. And if not, we'll move to the next segment. Uhuru. Kofi.
Exactly, can you say the stepping stones that Peter will be moving this next year?
Yeah. So first and foremost, like you said, economic development, and Petum needs to become an economically solvent, self-sustaining organization. This would allow for us the ability to have organizers who can travel without traveling on their own dime. It will have the ability to have a permanent office space in which we, so that's important. That's important. Reigniting to a full extent the Black Community Control and Police campaign, as well as the African Charged Genocide Campaign, and attached to that, our reparation certificate campaign, which are important to place that demand into the hands of African people with their ability to charge the U.S. with genocide and to demand. As well, recruitment, right? I remember, Chairman Omaya Shatella, by way of Bakri telling us that Chairman had told him, look, the solution to almost every single contradiction we face as African people is recruitment. If you read 2022 political report by Chairman Omaya Shatella, he speaks of the NAACP, but this is an echo of the report we read yesterday, 1991. The ability for these organizations, like I said, NAACP, Urban League, these organizations that do not have the interests of the African working class, what they're able to do is by pulling in members, pulling in resources, oftentimes pulling in people who don't even agree with the NAACP. All right, by way of multiple different things, supporting of their magazines. I was doing I received a call, I answered it. It was ACLU. ACLU hit me up, and their pitch was a magnificent pitch. They didn't say in their pitch, hey, how you doing? We are an organization of the white colonial bourgeoisie, and we'd like to solicit your support with liberal colonial policy by you becoming a $500 a month. They said, as you know, Michael, it's my colonial name, right? As you know, Michael, the rights that democracy and the rights that we all take care of are under attack. They talked about school shootings, they talked about education and healthcare, family rights, all these things being under attack. And then they start off with some high numbers, some high numbers, $20,000. I ain't doing $20,000. That's crazy. They said, okay, well, check this out. We have a Guardians of Liberty program. I said, damn, that's a good name. You could be a Guardian of Liberty for $20. Here's what I'll do. I'll put your name down for it, and I'm going to send you the envelope. And yet, less than a week later, that envelope was in my mail. I said, you could become a Guardian of Liberty for $20. $20. This is science to how they get that stuff. I was doing some research. NAACP did the same thing. 1940s, anti-lynching, anti-death penalty campaign. Their thing was, defend democracy, stop the death penalty, join the NAACP. Right, so we need to take these campaigns, these issues out into the people. I told you all. Well, I don't know if I told you all. I told Chairman yesterday. 2016, an African had gotten killed in San Diego. We were all out there as part of this mass group. At that time, everybody was yelling, chanting, blah blah blah. See, that's why we were fired up. One person, African internationalist, stood up, brought clarity to the whole situation. He didn't criticize us and say y'all are backwards or whatever, but he was clearly offering a clear way forward in the African internationalist demand. After I heard that, I went to that comrade and I was like, you from International People's Democratic Uhuru movement? Chairman Omaya Shatella, the only person who talks like that, I told the guy. And he said, well, I'm not from Impedum, but I did work with the movement. I do follow Chairman and stuff like that. And it was just that clarity that pierced through and brought leadership to this issue. For me, was central, and it's that, and so it's that. But for recruitment, some basic things, tabling in public, door-to-door campaigns, getting in front of political issues, mass recruitment into the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement is the way forward. Uhuru, Chairman.
Uhuru, thank you. Thank you so much, Comrade President Masamela. I wanted to, some of you are familiar with this brother. I just wanted to say that Brother Al in St. Petersburg, Florida, who has been a part of our program now for many years, and yeah, he died. He's very close to him. Yeah, he passed away this morning. I just wanted that. I wanted to say that. Also, I wanted to acknowledge that Sister Belinda Parker Brown in Louisiana. Yes. An extraordinary, heroic figure who has played such a major role, does play such a major role in organizing there, participated in forcing the state of Louisiana to change its constitution that had permitted for convicting people at trial with less than a unanimous jury. In fact, it only took 10 out of 12 persons on the jury to vote for conviction, and that's even in capital crimes. And thousands of people, and this was something that had changed because prior to 1970 or something, it only took 9 people to convict. And this was something that public records even show that the state of Louisiana had constructed precisely because they wanted to imprison African people. So she participated in a serious campaign. This is in the Louisiana state constitution, forced them to change that constitution. But all of those, the thousands of people still in prison in Louisiana who have been convicted under the less than unanimous. And so the court refuses to free them, but she's been leading that struggle and all the other kinds of things, very heroic woman. So she has been just convicted on the last couple of days of some kind of contempt of court because somebody who was facing a trial from her organization, she was advising them. And when she was in court, her public defender had made some kind of deal and that she didn't like that. She called Belinda Parker Brown. Belinda Parker Brown rushes to the court. She's advising the woman not to take the deal. And so the public defender of the woman tells the court about this. And then the court and says that she somehow involved herself improperly in this legal process. So they actually convicted her. Wow. And so she's supposed to pay $1,000 to them within the next few days. And that's part of what's being looked at. So people should be conscious that we're going to try to make some kind of contribution to fighting against that. I wanted to make, those announcements, but I think it's also important. We talk about 130,000 signatures on petitions claiming, pushing for the United States to be brought before the United Nations for violation of the Convention on the Punishment, Prevention and Crime of Genocide against African people. It takes 130,000 signatures. It's not just because they don't like what we're saying like that. It's not just because it's some kind of assault on a campaign. They want to take away our campaign. The fact is, what they're having to deal with is at the time they're preparing to take us to prison, saying that the Russians are the one who got us to put forth this genocide, this campaign against the United States. But they got this problem where 130,000 people all around the world agree with that. And it's hard to make this convincing argument that the Russians are the ones doing it if there's this much unity around the world with this thing about this genocide, convention and how all these people unite with that. So it just seems to me that's the best argument you can find to deal with this argument that somehow the Russians, we're doing this because of the Russians. With all of this unity, you can find the Russians tell 130,000 people, to sign that petition. So I think it's important for us to understand that, understand this question in the context of a struggle that we're involved in. It's a concrete struggle, not just to remove some signatures, not just to say, now you won't have these, et cetera, but it's a concrete struggle. This whole issue that we've been leading around, they want to try to neutralize the significance and it's political significance. So I wanted to say that. Also, I think it's really important what you just revealed to us about the ACLU and how you got the call. It's really great to see the NAACP doing the same things. I think it would be really helpful for our process to see concretely how we are dealing with this. Not just to say we're going to do something, but then say, ACLU, they call the NAACP, they have this program. We have to be able to say concrete at a convention. It seems to me, this is how we're taking it on. Our process, our program. This is what we are doing concretely, and what we're being wanted to take on. I just think that's really important, and that a report to this convention needs to have been written so that that the convention will have access to the report and could weigh it, in a very serious kind of way. So I just think those are just some of the observations I wanted to make, and I know. And also we need to be able, we have a NPL's national headquarters here. And I didn't hear much stated about how that reality was going to be dealt with. We've got a couple of people here who are hard working and really do everything that's possible to do, but how do we as NPL take on that reality of what has to be done in St. Louis? I mean, other places as well, but certainly if the headquarters is here and et cetera, I would like to have seen and heard. And perhaps some of what I'm mentioning now is something that will be covered in some of the panels that we have forthcoming. But I just think those are some of the things that's really important for this convention and for how people leaving this convention, people who are members of NPL needs to be able to understand practically how to participate in the organization to carry out the clear aims that we establish for ourselves, not just recruitment in the abstract, but just like the NAACP does this, just like ACLU, this is the kind of thing we're going to be doing. And I want to make this point because I think it's important. NPL is a mass organization. We want everybody in the African world to join NPL. We want to stand up on street corners with signs behind us saying, join the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. This is the only opportunity that Black working class people have to deal with the stolen children, to deal with all these things. We can say NAACP hasn't had none of these others, but we can't. And if we're going to fight back, we have to be organized. And that means that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all it takes is this amount of money. It takes $35. Give me $35 now, sign up. Go knock on doors. Have a concrete program like that. Do like those people who wake you up every Saturday morning, piss you off, trying to save your soul, and piss them off trying to save their asses. This is the kind of ongoing stuff. And we want everybody to join. I don't care if they never heard of Marcus Garvey. I don't care if they don't know anything about the revolution. We introduced them to political life. We knock on their door. The very fact that we knocked on their door and said something to them is something that contributes to a growing awareness in that community. I just think we have to, but I've been saying this, for I don't know how many years now. You've heard that before, haven't you, comment? Yeah. So the point is that we are not going to be recruiting African internationalists. It's African internationalists who are going to be recruiting people. You understand? The majority of the people we know are not African internationalists. If they were, they'd be here already. They'd be in the movement. But the majority of the people are just in pain all the time. And that's why you have to have a rapid kind of recruitment, because the people are drawn into a movement, Black people are, by pain. And so it's stuff that happens to us. My cousin, my child just got killed, right? I want to join something, I want to fight this. They will be there for as long as the pain lasts, unless we can deepen them while they're there. But as soon as the pain, the memory of the pain, it's like if that weren't the case, there wouldn't be any children in the world because women can remember how it was having that baby. You wouldn't do that no more, right? So as soon as the pain is over, the pleasure, the thought of the pleasure is what begins to take over. So we have to, recognize that people, Africans, the colonized, joined the movement and struggled out of pain, what's done to us, how miserable we live with this stuff. We remind the people constantly of the pain, but we also show the future. The thing being that you have to have an ongoing recruitment. People gotta be every day, all the time, recruit, because you're not gonna hold people beyond the pain. And I mean, you do stuff in the organization to try to deepen that, to try to get a grasp of them beyond that. But the thing that initially is gonna bring people to us is pain. Their pain, their cousin's pain, or something they read about that happened 4 centuries ago that brings pain to them. That's the thing that drives them to, and then we meet this relationship where we can deepen how they understand this pain. That's really critical to that. I just wanted to say these things, and Comrade President Masamela has a tremendous load that he's carrying because there are people in this room who heard me say this, 10, 15 years ago. And so he's got 10, 15 years of stuff, where it hasn't been done. So he's got all that baggage he's carrying with him, trying to move us forward. And I recognize that, say that, and that we have to help, the Comrade President achieve that, right? I love struggle. I really do. I wake up every morning and somebody was saying, I think we had a meeting. We were at dinner last night. Somebody said they feel guilty. What did they say? How did they go say when they don't do something, they feel guilty? Yeah. Like every single day. Yeah, you're guilty. If I don't pick up the burning spear and walk out there, I feel guilty. The thing is that, we're driven, to be free. And, I just want to say those things. And, let's build this incredible convention, this incredible movement. And anyway, Uhuru coming.
Uhuru, yeah, so hopefully we get to some of the chairman's questions in latter panels, especially looking at our branch building workshop, as well as the economic goals that's going to be presented to you all and voted on towards the conclusion of today. So that without a doubt is important because this, someone said, recently, I did something that said, Uhuru, thanks, Masamela. And I said, and I said, no problem. But in response, I said, that wasn't the correct answer, right? I said, this is us Africans doing something for African people. This is Africans with the capability to do things for African people. That's what that is, right? It's not about and any virtue you see in the political acts is like the result of me being an African internationalist. That is important. So that's really so hopefully we do answer some of those questions, and then some, of course, will be answered and laid to test through the next year worth of work. So I appreciate that. So, and St. Louis, I mean, we got to. And Chairman talked about the spear, selling the spear, getting the spear. There's no better recruiter to African internationalism than that Burn the Spear newspaper. Chairman told me stories, and you've seen it yourself, maybe, of people who've got boxes and boxes of spears sitting in their homes and things like that. I mean, that's kind of part of the contradictions, right? When the professor says, hey, someone's handing me all these yellowed spears from years ago, I say, what? At the same time that the comrades that's in prison holding the spear so much to the point that the oils and acids in their fingertips make that newspaper disintegrate. We got papers yellowing in boxes and closets in the back of cars. You know, so yeah. That's a comrade who told me he was out of the party for a little bit, and every single day he was out of the party, he felt guilt. He felt guilt. And but it's not. It's Chairman talked about the fact that I forget how you described it, but sort of material realities, but subjective forces. You know, that's subjective force. So it's not like it's not a guilt that says, you know, here's how many beads you got to pray on to be absolved of your contradictions. But it is one that says you got to get up, put on them shoes, and go be one with the people. You know. Yeah. So it's going. You stick to it. It's going to work. It's gonna work. I remember when someone gave my first spear. I remember when I bought my first spear. Two different experiences, right? I remember when I bought my first book from Chairman. So we'll talk about that. But yes. And I think we can now transition towards our next panel, unless Safari is on. Did Safari come on? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll make the Africa report public to all to read. If we should have some space in the agenda later on, if Safari shows up, he'd be able to present it to the convention. Because, like I said, I mean, you know, it's not. What I do want to do right now is, if possible, we can continue to make a call. I want to salute everybody who made their pledges yesterday and turned their pledges into actual donations. So in the last, so we've had a series of we're now up to $6,701 raised in donations and pledges. So like I said, that's us doing for ourselves. That leaves us only 4,760. No, sorry, I'm doing numbers wrong. That leaves us only $3,299 away from our goal. And that is, that's only 3 people in the room getting a Marcus Garvey membership. It's only 3 people, that's $84 a month. And if you don't think you can do it, I would just simply say, go to your bank account or whatever, go and look and say, how much did I spend on Netflix or coffee or something like that? Put a way forward. I'm not saying don't go with your coffee, because I ain't gonna see my smell that made me do this. You know, no, brew the coffee at your house. Save that $84, right? And put that towards us. So go get that big bag of coffee and make that, get you one of those pour over joints. Pour over joint real easy. Just add that. It's like making tea. You don't even gotta do the French press joint. Just get the pour over joint and place it straight into the cup, and you good. Or whatever, tea, whatever it is. But I would suggest that that $84 a month commitment is very doable. So is there anybody in the room that is not a Marcus Garvey member that's interested in becoming a Marcus Garvey member over the next calendar year for the International People's Democratic Movement? $84 a month commitment. Online as well, online. So that's $84. So we're going to hold that out there. Once again, like I said, 3 people in the room at the Marcus Garvey level will get us less than $300 away. 3 people in the room will get us less than $300 away from that. And if 3 people in the room make that, I'll take us over the finish line. All right, with a $300 commitment. So, or 3 people, three Marcus Garvey members. So let's think about that, or recruit a Marcus Garvey member. into the organization. So let's, as well. So let's now bring up the panel. The next panel that we'll have is African Shorts Inside the African Reparations Claim. We'll have myself, we'll have Chairwoman Penny Hess, and we'll have Lisa speaking towards her experiences. Comrade Lisa Davis speaking towards her experience. Comrade Lisa Davis, Vice Chair of the Black is Back Coalition and PETA member, speaking towards her experience at the Permanent Forum of People of African Descent. So, Uhuru, come on up. Uhuru. So, I appreciate this panel. I remember the first PETA convention that I came to, I actually hosted the panel, and it's an important political panel. The question of African Shark genocide, like I said, when I was reading through that document, the founding document, it really stood out to me, the way to which, I really appreciate that as well, what Chairman said, that they didn't just steal the petitions to steal some stuff. Like, there's all sorts of crap on the internet. There's all sorts of crap on the internet that we got to do all sorts of blockers, blurs, everything to make sure the kids don't just find some nonsense, right? There's all sorts of crap on the internet. So the question isn't that they just stole something to be petty or something like that. They stole it so that they can continue in the assault and to make the claim that it's not Africans working in their own independent self-determination and independence. It was the Russians who made us do it. But like I said, it's a campaign that I came into, worked around leading, and one of the people who helped me lead the work on the ground in San Diego, we saw the comrade now named Zaid, came into the work around it. And, I remember we used to take these trips across the border into Mexico, building with the Africans stuck at the US-Mexico border, chasing their resources, their stolen resources that have crossed borders that they themselves can't cross. So that was very, very essential work. And I was appreciative of being the chair of the, I was really appreciative of being the chair of the African Shark Genocide Campaign. So like I know that over, September 6th last year, I got that notification that that the campaign website had been taken down. A place on change.org, African Shark Genocide petition had housed there since 2015, and it had grown. That's one thing I find interesting is that people would subsequently come into political unity with us. We can see the origins of it with the African Shark Genocide campaign. There was this comrade in the Black Back Coalition named Yusuf Doucet, and you look back to 2015, one of the first people, even before him or his organization joined Black Back Coalition, had signed the petition. So as we know, this is a part of the assault against the Uhuru movement by not just the FBI, but the federal government. There's this position, like I said, I think that's important to understand. Chairman made that note the other day. So, it's a long slander. The Russians made them do it. One article that I put out in the Sphere was that, Russians never called me the N-word, making a note that, it's not a single African that I know walking around the United States or any other place that got a birth last name that's Russian. You got a lot of French names, a lot of Spanish names, all this other stuff, no Africans, and those names matter because those names are colonial markers. Just like the names placed on top of African countries, those names placed at the end of African families are colonial markers, right? So Africans don't have those names. So so the question here is about a primary political struggle. Africans have fought for reparations, of course, and the question of genocide a real long time. People talk about Queen Callie House, we can talk about Queen Mother Moore, but it's the African people and respect to Queen Mother Moore, the work of Queen Mother Moore. The African People's Socialist Party did two things: placed it into the hands of the African working class and extends it from simply a conversation about the legacy of slavery, but to explaining the conditions that African people face right now. When you go, so this question of genocide wasn't meant for African people. It was meant for violence that Europeans commit against European people, primarily European violence against the European Jewish community and to some extent people from Armenia, not against African people at all, right? However, we understand that the definition of genocide explains the colonial relationship that African people have with colonial white power. It explains that history of violence that African people have endured, and that was the political importance of taking up this question of genocide. Some ways in which it's defined: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting the group conditions of life calculated to bring about a physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within a group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. There's not a single stat in the United States in which African people and European people share the same life outcomes. Not a single stat. And if you can find it, then find it. And I'm pretty sure if you can find it, it's not significant. Something like, probably, yeah, you can probably find it. It's not a significant factor in determining people's life's outcomes. But if we take, say something like housing, forcibly removing children from the community. So if you don't send your kids to a colonial school, they could take your kids, right? And this is a real struggle we're dealing with right now. It's a real struggle we're dealing with right now, because the white left want to tell you it's all about just fight for public schools, fight for public schools, fight for public schools. Fight for African community control over education. If that look like public schools in this struggle, then it might look like public schools. If that look like a charter school in this situation, it might look like a charter school. But the thing is, we're talking about African control. But take something like school. You don't send your kids to school, they can take your kids. If you don't have a home, you can't enroll your kids in a school. And if you don't enroll your kids in that school, they take your kids. In a place like California, they can make as much as $14,000 a month by taking a single African kid. These people in these agencies. So we understand this. That the guy's name was Raphael Lemkin. Raphael Lemkin initiated the Genocide Convention. I think by extension of that extends into the International Declaration of Human Rights. And the United States is champion this year. I mean, we were at the UN, the United States, talking about, this is the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. The United States supports that. No, you don't. It's the 35th anniversary in the United States, because it took the United States 40 years to ratify the Genocide Convention, because only at the point in which they wanted to make sure that they wouldn't be charged with genocide, and they placed into the measures that they could not be charged with genocide. Everyone talking about, if this person goes to South Africa, they're going to be tried in front of the World Court. The United States don't acknowledge the World Court, not for the crimes they've committed against people. Right, so this is important for us to understand. Now, there's a long history of genocide campaigns. I think the National Negro Congress, of which people like Paul Robeson and others were associated with, are the first to kind of take up this issue. And then we see Du Bois and the NAACP had done some things. The most significant of the campaigns in those early years was led by a guy named William Patterson, and the what's called the Civil Rights Congress, with the We Charge Genocide campaign, the document. I looked at the document, magnificent document, but they ain't got no 130,000 signatures. Magnificent document. So we talking about placing this struggle to the hands of African working class and the international community in support of African independence. Uhuru. So when we talk about the question of genocide, right? Okay, so when did they make us say it? So was it in December 1968, the very first edition of the print? December 1969, the very first print, sort of what they call a serial edition of the Burning Spear newspaper. Before that, it was printed in a little bit different way in 68, but go to December 1969, ufdc.ufl.edu. Look at the very first edition, query the word genocide. From the very first edition to the surviving 345 editions of the Burning Spear newspaper, we talking about 323 of the 345 editions, thousands of times. I mean, it's so many times that I don't really get the correct number when I do it, because sometimes the system not reading all the times. Like if it's hyphenated, it don't read the genocide. So if it's just Geno, then it won't read it or something like that. So we talking thousands of times, us understanding these are the conditions that we face as African people, as well as some other magnificent campaigns that I'd like to hear more about from people, from Comrade Chairwoman Penny Hess, who helped lead what was originally called the Walk Against Genocide, then I think the March Against Genocide, and eventually what we now know as the Days of Reparations to African people. So just a real magnificent history, important campaign for us to continue to take forward, organizing local working groups around this issue. Like I said, right now we have a working group formed in London in defense of the Comrade Shania, but for us to continue to build those working groups around the charge of African genocide. So now I want to go to Comrade Penny Hess. Comrade Penny Hess will speak towards her work historically, and then we'll hear from Comrade Lisa's experience at the Permanent Forum People of African Descent.
Uhuru, just really want to salute this convention, this powerful convention this weekend. I want to salute you, President Matsumoa, and Lisa. It's an honor to be here. And as always, I have to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onizane Yeshitela. And I want to say that there is really nothing that I would understand about this question, the question of reparations, the question of genocide, or anything about the world and how it got to be the way it is without the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the understanding of the colonial mode of production and African internationalism. So I thank you so much, Chairman, for that. It is something that is very powerful and liberating in the sense for the colonizer to understand this and what we can do. And I also want to say that two of the overt acts that Comrade Jesse talked about that are listed in the indictment against the chairman, against the Uhuru 3, are the reparations tour they talk about and the genocide petition. And just to say that reparations tours, we have been doing those for about 50 years, 45, at least since the 1980s. We have done reparations tours every year. We're getting ready to do that again. We have the days of reparations to African people. And, you know, and just we can look at our earliest photographs of the March Against Genocide and see, you know, it was called the March Against Genocide that APSC and the Solidarity Movement carried out every year. Now it's called the March for Reparations, but we had banners and posters against the genocide of African people. And so I want to say I wrote my thoughts here because I really wanted to put this down because I think that the existence of the African People's Solidarity Committee under the leadership of the African Liberation Party of the African working class, this is APSC, and our mass organization, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, are the only organizations, or I should say organization, created by an African Revolutionary Party, formed strategically and specifically to deploy white people, not as charity, not as a favor, but to go in behind enemy lines into the colonizer population to win other white people and to raise and fight for reparations. And that is what we do. That is who we are. There is no other organization of white people that is created for reparations to win it in theory and practice. I want to salute, there are a few others who have raised it. Comrade Ida Hakeem, who works with Nation of Islam, has written many books on reparations. Really salute her for being out there. I have met her. And a few, maybe a few others, I don't know. But the question is, the central question in the world, the primary contradiction is the struggle against colonialism upon which the system was built. And there's no other long-lasting organization under the leadership and direction of an African working class party. There's not another African working class party than the African People's Socialist Party that is openly fighting to unite African people everywhere for the liberation and unification of Africa. And that we have, you know, we have a long-term practice as APSC that unites with the discipline and the urgency that the African People's Socialist Party has brought to this question. And what APSC, African People's Solidarity Committee, and Uhuru Solidarity Movement do is actually raise resources for the programs and campaigns of the party, for the Black Power institutions, the Black Power blueprint, and more, every front of the party in terms of actual programs, but also in terms of campaigns that are needed at various times. And this is what we have done since our founding in 1976. The very first work assigned by the party to APSC was to raise resources for the work to free Desi Woods, an African woman who was in prison for 22 years for killing a white man that tried to rape her and a friend at gunpoint. She got his gun and shot him and killed him. And this was at a time when the white women's movement was attempting to say that this was a woman's right to defend herself, the self-defense, but the party raised the struggle to free Desi Woods as a question of colonial violence against the entire African people. And it was a powerful campaign that APSC took on under the leadership of the party and the National Committee to free Desi Woods. There was also, we were called on to raise resources for the African National Prison Organization and the African National Reparations Organization. These are some of the very earliest things that we took on. And it meant that we had to find the ways, not just to talk about this, but to raise resources, to win white people, to understand the colonial mode of production and the responsibility of acknowledging what white people have done. And that's why we have the book, Overturning the Culture of Violence. The atrocities that white people committed and still commit today to African people and indigenous people are by and large committed and have been historically by everyday white working people, not the government. So this is why the chairman, calls it the white people's state. It has been the white people's state. And I think Comrade Lisa has pointed out, that people like Carolyn Bryant, who instigated the murder, the slaughter of Emmett Till, they get off. But if you fight for reparations, you get indicted by this, under the leadership of the African Liberation Movement. The thing that we have to say and show as part of raising reparations in reality is we have to show white people what colonialism means, this dialectic of the colonizer and the colonized, and how white people in the US, in Africa, wherever we have gone around the world to, as part of the colonial domination of Africa and colonized peoples, and in particular in the US, the way that white people could burn a human being publicly, or cut a baby out of an African woman's stomach and then go home and kiss their own children good night and go to church the next day. And say that this is the highest civilization on the planet Earth. So I just wanted to say that is the basis, that is what we take out to the white community. But we have always cited the Genocide Convention and showed how every listed manifestation of genocide that President Matsamela just read is experienced by the African population every single day, that there was no word for genocide until white people killed other white people in Europe, as Chairman O'Malley Chattel has pointed out, when white people were slaughtering Africans in Congo by 20 million, who knows how many, cutting off their hands, cutting off their heads, putting them on fence posts in Congo. And look what happened look what the white people did in Kenya. Look what white people did in Namibia. All of this. There was no word for genocide. White people just did that. And that was the right of white people. There was no law against it, no indictments. So I just want to say that one of the first things that we did was build the Walk Against Genocide in about 1980, which then became the March Against Genocide. And now the March for Reparations. We went door to door in Berkeley and Oakland and Chicago and Philadelphia. We started baking chocolate chip cookies, which we sold by the thousands at Grateful Dead concerts. I don't know how many people in here even know what a Grateful Dead concert is. We started baking pies at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and very popular still in the Bay Area and Florida in particular. We held booths at San Francisco street fairs with big banners saying reparations to African people, stop the US war on the Black community, and the 3 strikes you're out. And pretty soon we had white people waiting in lines to get this, to support this. And so, yeah, so we talked about material solidarity. And after the first tribunal on reparations to African people in 1982, we understood that material solidarity, reparations, this is the same thing. And this became our mantra. This is what we put out. So I just want to say that, and I say that the fighting for reparations to African people is incredibly the positive stand. It is a liberating stand for white people. It explains who we are in the world, how we can rectify and regain a principled relationship to African people and the people on the planet Earth, not as the colonizer, not sitting on their backs, at the expense of African people, but under their leadership, this is what is going to solve the problems of the entire planet, is when African people have power, when indigenous people have their land back in power. And this will be the future for white people, for all peoples on this planet Earth. So I just wanted to say that. And for any white people who are watching, we're getting ready for our Days of Reparations. Again, this year, our tour and our campaign, and you can go to uhurusolidarity.org and sign up for that, be part of the stand of reparations to African people. So unity through
Reparations.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, and good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Davis. I'm the Vice Chair of the Black is Back Coalition and officially a new member of NPM. Although to be honest with you, I didn't even realize I wasn't officially a member of NPM. I'm like, oh, that did not happen. Okay, but I say all that to say how closely I have worked with the Uhuru movement. And also, I think it's just a big shout out to members of Impedum, because it's not like they make you feel if you ain't with Impedum, then you ain't with us. No, like I said, I just didn't realize I wasn't. But so, but officially, I've just become. I wanted to just say one thing that I got to also point out yesterday, and I think that this is very critical to point out in addition to what you raised about Carolyn Bryant. This is the area where Darren Wilson murdered Mike Brown, an 18-year-old young African man walking down the street. That's all he was doing. And he murdered him in cold blood. I don't think he served a second in jail, but also the Department of Justice was asked to investigate Mike Brown. And Darren Wilson. And they cleared him. They said they could find nothing wrong.
Right.
However, who are the people that they have issues with? Who are the people that they are criminalized? Who are the people that they seek to put in jail? Omali Yeshitela, Jesse Neville, and Penny Hess. That's, I think, when we are talking about what's happening here, we should also remember that as well. And as you see that red, black, and green flag flying, as you see this Uhuru house, as you see what's being built, that is what they are against. So, just have to say that. I also just wanted to open up with a couple of points that I just want everybody to really get in terms of where we were at the UN earlier this year. I think, when was that, in May or something like that? Around that time, right? And we were attending a forum that was held by the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. And one of the things that I want people to really get, I want you to remember, if you have not heard of this, and I also have to make a self-criticism of myself, because I will have a report prepared for this again. It's like I'm trying to understand a little bit more about the Impedum protocol and all of that. But I will have a report prepared about this, but I think this is very important. So there's the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent, which was created in 2021 by the UN. Remember, it was who created it. And this is supposed to be a consultative body for helping African people throughout the world to improve our lot. How you got to be a member of this permanent forum, I don't know, but I will find that out. I'm like, who elected? How did it happen? Who are these people? Did they tell us? Did the person from the UN let us know? The person from the United States representing us, by the way, is Justin Hansford. But anyway, in 2001, about 20 years ago, they had the World Conference Against Racism, which the United States has boycotted consistently. Whenever they've had forums like that, the United States does not come. They boycotted when Barack Obama was president, George Bush. They don't acknowledge it. And at the World Conference Against Racism in 2001, there was the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, which was at least written up, in which, from what I understand, that the UN said that slavery and all of the atrocities that the United States has committed and other people of the world, they were crimes against humanity, and they set they implemented a program, or they outlined a program of action for reparatory justice. You know, so I just want people to understand that. I will have more about that, but the United States doesn't acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind, they kind of like the permanent forum for people of African descent, which should be a little bit of a red flag, but not the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. And to be honest with you, I went there. Well, first of all, I went there because I also wanted to bring the issue of what was happening to the Uhuru movement. I also happen to be a member of NCOBRA on the Health Commission, and I know of some people in NCOBRA who are working, you know, with it and trying to understand and encouraging people to be there. So I didn't see any wrong with it. And at that time also, I wasn't officially a member of NPW. So I went, and I don't know a whole lot about the UN. I don't really go there. The last time I was there, but prior to that was when I was in grammar school. And what I really remembered about the UN was the free lunch that we got that day. But other than that, I'm just like, I don't have a lot of confidence. I'll just put it to you like that. But again, I don't know a whole lot about that. So I didn't know the terrain, and I think the terrain is important to understand when you are someplace. So I didn't even know if it's considered, I know it's in the United States, but I didn't know if it's considered US territory, the land that it's on. So these are things I didn't know. But I know that in order to get into that conference, we had to pre-register. You had to pre-register and then pre-register again or whatever. So you could not just walk up in there and say you wanted to get in. We were told to be there early. I got there at about 8:45 maybe. The forum was supposed to be starting on the first day at about 9 o'clock. The lines were very long to be able to get, so you could get your ID so that you could then go into the UN and begin to attend the conference. I know that first day, that line was so many people, ID they did not have. I was one of them. And it took me, I think I got in at about 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And a lot of people were commenting. Like I said, I don't know whether this is usual or normal for the UN or not, but there were other people commenting. And I remember this white person in particular, she was like, I've been to many things at the UN and I've never seen this. It's normally not done like that. Also, they had no translators for people from Brazil, which I think their primary language that they speak is Portuguese. And I also think that Brazil has the largest population of African people outside of the continent, or one of the largest populations. And for most of the time, they did not have Portuguese translators. And this is the UN. Portuguese is a relatively common language, but they did not have that. And I think that was, rather telling. Also, I remember, I was handing out information, hands off Uhuru information. I mean, there's this long line outside. I wasn't even in the UN building, but I didn't even think that was an issue or anything. And to be honest with you, I wasn't there like in a challenging manner. I was there to just try to assess what was going on and see if I could make connections and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm just passing out literature because that's what you do. And so in fact, then I ran into Brother Maximella here. And so we began both giving out, here you go, long line and everything. I remember there was this guard, she happened to be Black, and she said to me, you can't do that here. I'm like, what, why? And I was just curious. I was like, I can't, no, you cannot, you should know that you cannot pass out literature at the UN. And I'm saying to myself, and why on earth should I know that? Like, that's supposed to be the biggest thing in my life. It's not, but I didn't say that to her, but I'm like, why would I need to know that? And then, but we were not, like I said, wasn't confident. I was like, oh, I didn't know, because I really didn't know. But then I noticed that she radioed in to someone and she goes, you better be careful of these people here. And with that attitude, I was just observing that because there was really no need for her to do that. Oh, thank you. And even if it was true that you absolutely could not pass out literature, she could have just said, no, you can't do that. But then to radio it in, so you better watch out for these people. But anyway, so I was like, okay. I did get a chance to get in. I was passing out literature anyway, in my own way. Like I said, I was really trying to get an assessment of what was going on. I will say this much, that I think we need to know more about this permanent forum of people of African descent. I think we need to know who these people are. And I think they need to know who we are. And they need to know international. This is an international body. This is an international body. And I mean, some of the people on this body might be sincere. I know that there was, people, representatives from all over. And it was like they would have side events, and then they would have like the General Assembly. I will say this much, I do know that Black Alliance for Peace had a side event. Unfortunately, it was scheduled at the same time as there was a side event about the Durban conference, which I thought was really important to go to. So it was kind of scheduled at the same time, unfortunately. So I couldn't attend the Black Alliance for Peace. It was a strong comrade of ours, but so I knew they were raising the issue in terms of imperialism and war. But what really struck me about this body, in that the General Assembly, which was when people come back and report, there was no discussion about war or US imperialism or what it was doing to the African nations and all of these wars. There was just no discussion about, I don't remember any discussion about that. And I thought that was critical, because I thought there should have been, but there wasn't anything like that. I do know that I had signed up repeatedly to speak, because I was going to raise that, this is what's going on, what the United States has done with the, the Uhuru movement. And I signed up many times, and I didn't get a chance to speak. But on the bright side, that kind of like kept me at the forum. Well, I'll come tomorrow and I'll try tomorrow. There were people there talking about CPS, like the head of the Human Rights Commission. I didn't know that that was even going to be there, but I found myself there and that side of events. I'm like, oh, great, I'm going to make some contacts here. So I thought, and I'm going to reach out to them. And I did that. I haven't heard from them yet, but that's another avenue that we can, continue to fight on that issue. But I know that we have, work to do. Like I said, I think it's very important for us to understand this body, who they are, and to make sure that they know who we are, and that we get our point across, and that we just, we need to understand this format, so to speak, that is opened up to us. We really do need to understand that. And I need to understand a little bit more about the UN and to find out, can I legitimately pass out literature there or not? Because I'm like, and then I did get the chance to, I did wear one day the Hands Off Uhuru t-shirt. I did get a chance to do that, because I wasn't even certain how they would feel about, wearing political messages or anything. And I remembered again, so and I did have a sweater just in case they were going to challenge me. So anyway, I'm walking through, but here's another thing that I'm walking through, and I got to say this, so, like they let me go on through. And again, I get to a person who happens to be Black, and, security guard, she goes, wait a minute. Let me read this. I'm like, okay. And she goes, wait a minute. And she called somebody else over. Somebody happened to be white. Goes, what? No, she can go on. So, but that was just an interesting attitude to me by the people who are working there. That no matter, and I want to say to them, with all due respect, the only reason you got this job ever is because of people like me on the outside doing this and wearing these kind of things. I did get a chance to make some content. So I just want to say, so these are some areas that we can, work on and continue to look into, and certainly to understand who is this body that is supposed to be acting as a consultants to us. Now, they were making strong statements about reparations and everything, and there's a website and there's links, so I can make sure that we also get the links so we can go back and sort of, listen to their summary. So they were pretty strong like that. But also, just one of the things that I think happened, because I remembered that the Caribbean people, CARICOM, that I do remember they had representatives there, but I also saw where our comrades with the Black Alliance for Peace, they wrote an article talking about how CARICOM has agreed or whatever with the United States when it comes to Haiti and to try to send some kind of, I don't know, peacekeeper, whatever they call them, troops into Haiti. And that CARICOM had agreed to that. So these are the kind of things we need to be mindful of. And I will have a report.
So what we're gonna do, we have a culture act who's a local poet who's gonna come up and do a piece. I'm gonna ask the panel to stay here because then we're gonna hear a report from Comrade Leroy Jones, George Jackson, Desi Woodsworth, and then we'll open it up for question and answer around both the prison work and the anti-genocide. So after the poet, then we'll hear from Comrade Leroy.
Uhuru, wouldn't you agree that this day is just as hot as it was yesterday? And I don't mean heat hot, I'm talking about politically hot. Uhuru, I want to bring to you one of my St. Louis poet extraordinaire, because St. Louis is heavy with poetry and culture. I want to bring to you Abby the Truth. Comrade.
I'm cool, ready? Everybody good? Yeah. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. I usually don't use it. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna give y'all two real quick pieces. Is that cool? I want to hear you too, though. All right. Here we go. Oh, there we go. All right, here we go, y'all.
You want my?
Can you hear me? I'm good. I'm good. I'm a black man. Born in this land, I've been ostracized, brutalized. As I sit here and fantasize, I'm waiting on my oppressor to apologize. I've come to realize, man, they ain't gonna never sympathize with us, and that's cool. See, they think low income housing and food stamps. Well, that's our 40 acres and a mule. So I've decided to improvise. Get a couple of my brothers and sisters together, organize, strategize. But let me emphasize, in order for us to capitalize, we must first go in our own neighborhoods and black businesses, not vandalize, but patronize. Minimize our genocide, because suicide is genocide. That way we'll have more brothers and sisters in institutes than being institutionalized. These are just some things I see through my eyes. This poem right here is no joke. It might be the realest poem I've ever spoken. Even though we criticize, white cops killing unarmed black boys have multiplied. If this doesn't get rectified, gonna be a revolution. And it won't be televised. So what I would advise before you brothers and sisters walk out the door peep game, you should know that a hoe with a gun, that's the same thing as a cop that's gun ho. Listen, if you got melanin in your skin, you fit the description. I'm not trying to be rude, but a black man or a black woman who say they know their constitutional rights, you a damn fool. The Constitution was wrote for whites by whites. You ain't got no rights. You fighting an uphill battle. When they wrote that shit, they were comparing black folks to livestock and cattle. Look, I'm just trying to put you brothers and sisters up on game. Society wants to keep you dumb. How you gonna know where I'm at if you ain't been where I've been? Now somebody in this room tell me where I'm coming from. This poem is no joke. It might be the realest poem I've ever spoke. I'm in total disgust. America don't love us. Listen, this is a natural fact that this country right here was built on a black man and a black woman's back. Yet I must come to embrace a country that holds a legacy of disgrace. With foreigners in my own community, I must run a frantic race just to fight for these crumbs that's left on America's plate. This poem is no joke. Might be the realest poem I've ever spoken. Y'all ain't ready for no revolution. We got too many brothers still in federal institutions. Too many of y'all believe in America's Constitution, but won't give us no retribution. Y'all ain't ready for no another Watts. Bet it don't be another Ferguson. Watch. Calm down, pipe down, and get hands up, gun down. St. Louis, Mississippi, Alabama, Detroit, pick a town. RIP, shots out to Mike Brown. Skittles and CDs I would not advise. The revolution ain't gonna never be televised. Only on dash cam for cops, footage to watch, gunshots, bright lights. Look, everything ain't always black and white. Sometimes it's red. Revolution, another black man dead. I swear, I promise. Look, can I be honest? Revolution. And I forgot the rest of that poem. Hey.
Go for it.
All right, here we go, y'all. Excuse me while I vent. But you mean to tell me out of 400 years, you mean to tell me you couldn't find number one black man to be the president? Y'all don't see this doo-doo in the toilet. I guess they think I'm retarded. That's it. It's an elephant in this room, because I can smell the shit. Born in a land where the greater is lesser and the lesser is greater than, this country be no joke. I didn't quit my sipping Hennessy and Coke, and I didn't switch to sea moss and black seed oil. Now I'm woke. They say what you don't know won't hurt you. Bull-ish. That's why they want us to forgive and forget. It's levels to this. Hitting rules. 12 years of slavery. Ain't nothing but school. Ain't no fooling me. In America, a brother with a diploma, it's the same thing as a brother as a GED. Dying to wear a cap and a gown. Never knowing once we wore crowns. How come everything I learned about myself was never taught in school? Recreations would be cool. 40 acres, man, the hell with a mule. My path is similar to math. So us, they divide. Plus, what good is a race of people? Minus our dignity and pride, our religion they hide. It's a must. Think about it. We the only race of people in the world that worships a God that don't look like us. We crazy, Al Haley, a bunch of fiddlers off roots. Can't y'all see how cordy can we be? We offset. Too many of God's children be lost in the projects. We be living Bible fables, selling Cain to Abel. Brothers be killing brothers, Cain and Abel. Loving one another lately, I swear to God, black folks, we act like we unable. Something I don't get. But always show love and compassion to races of people who are the least compassionate. We psychologically sick, no joke. 400 years of mental and physical abuse, and black folks was never diagnosed. The prognosis of the diagnosis is that we ill. While each other we kill, little black girls they steal. Gunshots, white cops, badge, and shields. Your education is a must. So I'm just trying to educate us. Knowledge is wealth. You better start educating yourself, educating your health. They're gonna educate your ass to death. I wear my pride and dignity on my hip. I must admit, I ain't forgiving or forgetting ish. Black Holocaust, my melanin don't come off, don't crack. I'm beautiful and black. Third eye well intact. They say the revolution won't be televised. So what I would advise, black folks, search within. Ain't nothing wrong with your nose, hair, and skin. I be runway posing. I'm one of God's chosen, the darkest on sight. I'm gonna always bring the light. My confidence be like, God damn, I know who I am. Look at our history. For hundreds of years, we used to work for no fee. Mentally, physically broke as can be. Then they set us free with no education, with no land, with no wealth. Now ask yourself, born in a land where the greater is lesser and the lesser is greater than, never divide. Proof.
Whoa. Wow.
Didn't I tell you?
Well, no, I really want to salute Conrad folks. You know, people say, "Oh, Uhuru movement just came out." The Uhuru movement did not just come to St. Louis. Did Jesse Todd just come to St. Louis? Did Zaki Baruti just come to St. Louis? Did Fofi just come to St. Louis? Right. So what we understand in these last almost decade since the uprising around Mike Brown was African internationalism giving shape to a struggle of African people here. That's over 100 years old. You know, Garvey, there was a large Garvey branch here. Go do some research. There was another African socialist organization whose name slips my League of something as well. So sort of work that they did, as well as the hundreds of plus years. This is the place we'll learn about of the struggle for heritage. Red Scott were. So I just really want to salute the revolutionary culture work that Comrades Fofi, Artemis, and so many others are doing. You know, that was remarkable. That was remarkable. I mean, that we have it recorded so that we can place it back out into the people. That was remarkable. So I want to bring up Comrade Leroy, Comrade Leroy Jones. So if we can get another chair. Come on. And so we talked about the George Jackson, Desi Woods work that we are doing, and that being one of the fastest growing sectors of the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement. Originally called George Jackson Campaign because of the fact that George Jackson, of course, African, sent to prison. One of these, I think they used to call it 1 to 99-year sentences or something crazy in California. African worker. And the reason I say African worker, you got people who generally use this term lumping, but lumping really is an inappropriate application. Lumping proletariat, that's something that Marx created to sort of describe, white workers who engage in crime instead of, some form of industrial labor, I'm guessing. But that doesn't correctly explain the relationship of African workers with colonialism. That doesn't explain the relationship of us with the so-called justice system, incarceration, any of that stuff, sort of a lumping or something like that. But nevertheless, that was George Jackson. He came into political life while incarcerated. But also Desi Woods. Let's understand that one of the fastest growing components of the carceral system is African women. Also understanding that the carceral system incarceration isn't just them jails, but also I think it's significant to understand that Desi Woods was the nature of her incarceration was her political activity, her self-defense, but also her political activity. The role that African women play heavily in defense of African men who are incarcerated. See, the anti-colonial analysis, African internationalism lets us understand that. I take a step back and say that over a decade ago, a report came out. It said that 1 out of 3 Black women will face eviction throughout their lifetime. 1 out of 3. The analysis in this liberal stuff, couldn't quite understand the fact that that's directly connected to the fact that 1 out of 3 Black men are going to face incarceration throughout their lifetime. And the question isn't simply of what liberals might call a heteronormative relationship. No, if my brother got locked up, if my cousin got locked up, my mama can't make her rent next month. She's gonna lose her apartment that she's been in for almost 40 years. That's what we're talking about. But African internationalism gives us the clear understanding. So Desi Woods, it was important for us to expand this membership in honor of Desi Woods as well as George Jackson. One of the former Desi Woods, George Jackson Desi Woods members was Comrade Leroy, and now Comrade Leroy is a Huey Newton member. So let's. Comrade Leroy, story covered in the Spear. Also also on Black Heart Talks, the podcast, International People's Democratic Movement. So we want to just allow for Comrade Leroy to speak towards his case and also, the way forward for our campaign and our defense of Africans behind those prison walls.
Hello, comrades. First of all, thank you for welcoming me here. Been enjoying this time that I've been here. Just a little bit about myself. Obviously, my name is Leroy Jones. I was born in California, lived in Northern California, Long Beach, California. Moved to Vegas by way of the Air Force. Once I got out of the service, I decided to stay out there because the cost of living was much cheaper than going back to California. Well, in September 20th of 2007, my life changed. I went to a hotel to visit a friend. Next thing you know, I'm being told that I've been accused of robbing the place the night before. So telling the friend, hey, I ain't got nothing to be scared of, go ahead and call the police. He called the police. Next thing you know, I'm in cuffs on my way to jail. Did not see that coming. It had a profound effect on me because I'd never been in a system like that before. So I never knew, exactly what to expect. I thought the system was going to do what it's supposed to do. And then after I read the paperwork, let me back up a little bit. While I was in there, they found 2 more robberies where they said I fit the description of the individual that did that, and they put that on me. So I went in to fight 1 and ended up fighting 3. Once again, I did not know the system. I did not know exactly what to do or how to do, but I had the belief that the system would work the way it's supposed to work. After reading the paperwork, I felt there was no way they can find me guilty of this. My attorney decided they wanted to try to come at me with a deal. I said, I want absolutely no deal unless it's complete dismissal of charges, because I didn't do nothing. So what is the point of me taking the deal? I'm not going to do that. Well, ended up going to trial. So let me back up a little bit more. So how this happened was there was a woman that I used to deal with while I was at work, because they're accusing me of robbing the place that I used to work at. The woman that I used to deal with, she caught me in a situation with another woman, and she told the police I was the one that committed that robbery as revenge to get me in, obviously to get me in trouble. I go sit in, going through this whole process and everything, and there's a lot that I can say, but I'm gonna just focus on one thing only, and that is the video of the robbery. So there was 3 robberies. They had video of all 3 robberies, but they only turned over 2. In the robberies, in the 2 that you can see, all you can see is just a black man that did it with some size, and that's about it. You can't get no identity or anything like that. The 3rd video, which was the important one, they would not turn over. So usually it's the DA fighting to get evidence in and not the defendant. Well, in this case, it was the defendant. I was the one fighting to get that video in. Until this day, there's still no video. They will not let us see this video. They will not produce a video. And as of right now, I have the Rocky Mountain Innocence Project out in Utah. They decided to go ahead and take my case. And they're focusing on trying to get this video. When I was going through the process that I was going through, I was able to get an evidentiary hearing. This is how I know the cards are stacked against me. My own attorney, the one that's supposed to be fighting for me in this, told me to my face while I was sitting there, hey, bring up this video. He said, I don't think that video is important. I said, huh? I said, how does that work? You have a video here that can actually exonerate me, and you telling me it's not important? I knew at that moment I couldn't win. I got the DA fighting me and I'm fighting my own attorney. But inadvertently, because my attorney was arguing something else, it came up in court that, hey, nobody has seen this video. So the judge decided to stop the hearings and get this video produced. But guess what? The DA had tricks for that too. So the first time they said, hey, the officer that has it, we can't find them. We got to get in contact with him, get this video. Came back 30 days later. Oh, the video's locked in the North Las Vegas evidence vault. couldn't get it. Then after they ran out of excuse, they said, hey, Your Honor, we just don't have the video. So mind you, when we first started this, we gave them the notice, we did everything to let them know that all the evidence needs to be kept in this case because we're filing appeals. So they should have had this video. But no, they would not produce this video. And I know this video has what needs to be on it in order to exonerate me because I used to work at the hotel and I did security at the hotel. So I know exactly what it is that they're hiding. Because there's a camera in that hotel that casts headshots of everybody walking through that door. Everybody. So if it was me, like they said it was, I would have been on that camera. So I kind of find it kind of ironic that this is the only video that just won't be produced. Like I said, there's other things that goes along with it to show that this is, you know, it's not legit, but the video is the primary thing because you can see it. You know, there's no evidence better and more stronger and more powerful than a video of the incident. So like I said, I have the Rocky Mountain Innocence Project. They're working on it and they ran into a loophole that the Metro Police Department is using. So since I'm no longer incarcerated, I'm not on parole or anything, the loophole that they're hanging it on is that because I'm no longer a ward of the state, I'm not entitled to the evidence in my case anymore. So now I cannot get, now they have to hire attorneys in order to file suit against the police department in order to get this video. Me personally, I'm like, okay, if this conviction and everything that you did is so strong and so powerful and it's so solid, why don't you just hand over the evidence? You're proving that what you did to me is justified and right. But yet you're fighting tooth and nail to keep this away from me. It makes absolutely no sense. They took 15 years and 24 days of my life, 15 years and 24 days of my children's life. And so this has opened my eyes from personal experience of how taking the father out of the home affects the rest of the family. Now my daughter is going through it. And she's following in the exact same footsteps that that many of our children that witness parented, right, is following. And she's now starting to have a record and doing the things that she's doing. And me talking to her is not helping her because I wasn't there. And that really, really, really breaks my heart because I know what's about to happen. I know what's going on. I'm trying to direct it in the right way. But because of the 15 years and 24 days that they stole from me and her and my son, things is hard. So just, excuse me. Thank God that I am the person that I am because the whole 15 years that I was in there, not one time did I ever go to the hole. Not one time did I, get into a situation that I could not get out of. I was very well protected by just being who I am. It has not changed me. There's people that have met me and talked to me, and then when they find out that what I've been, they say, "Oh, really?" I said, "I could not see that in you." I was like, that's a good thing. I didn't let it change me. I didn't become, that institutionalized individual. I stayed true to who I am the whole time. I didn't let the fact that I have a felony keep me from getting, a good job. I'm here because I'm able to financially support myself and be able to do some of these things. And that's a beautiful thing. Inside, there's many things that was wrong inside, but probably the biggest thing was the medical billing situation that they had. So in 15 years, they stole $64 from me. And it may not sound not a lot, for one person, but if you're constantly doing that to 5,000 or 6,000 people, it kind of adds up. So what they do is they do phantom billing, and they'll charge you for appointments that you never went to. They'll charge you for missing appointments. Like, for example, the last appointment that I had was the same day that the attorneys from the Innocence Project came down to visit me and interview me. And because I couldn't go to my appointment, they charged me for that. And so they give you paperwork to get your refund, but they don't ever give you a refund. I think I got one refund out of all. So they're 64, that's there's $8 per charge. So that's 8 charges. So out of 8 charges, I got 1 back. But this is a common practice. And as I was talking to Comrade Odom, one of the things that I would like to, address is that I don't know what they do in other states, but I know in the state of Nevada, they do this. So, being the person that I am, I really don't like when people get over on me. So I devised a plan at the end of my sentence. When I was going home, I sent a lot of the stuff that I had home by mail, but I did it in a timely situation where the prison ended up having to pay for it as opposed to me paying for it. So that's kind of how I got my little money back. Call me petty if you want to, but I just hate it when to feel like I'm being stepped on and just disrespected as a man. It's not fair. There's a lot of individuals in there that are there for life, so they have to deal with this medical stuff. They have to deal with being constantly having their money stolen and taken from them. So that was one of the ways that I've decided that I wanted to step out, and I think that I might be able to do something about. All I need is direction, because I don't know. I don't know nothing about this. I don't know how to do these things. I don't know. I have the heart, I have the fight, the desire to fight. I just don't have the direction. So, joining this is what I was hoping, to be able to find that direction and be able to step out and, be that face and be able to, fight them in that manner. One of the other things that I wanted to say is that, yesterday when you guys spoke about the Uhuru 3, oh, that made me so happy. It made me happy because it's to see somebody be able to stand up and fight the bull. I couldn't do it. I didn't have that resource. I didn't have the knowledge. But to see you guys be able to do that, oh, that made me so happy. To hit that bully in his mouth and let him know that you're not going to do this to you. There are people that can stand up to them and that can win. And I pray to God and I hope that everything works out for you guys. Because trust me, I've been through it, and to be able to have to sit there in that chair and just look at them do whatever the hell they want to you and you can't do nothing. Oh my God, it's very hurtful. I remember the DA said, the DA stood up and said in my case that he is the ringleader of a band of hoodlums running around robbing people in Vegas.
That's a great job title.
Really, that's how they describe me. Ex-military, hardworking man, because I took care of my kids. I made sure they was clothed. I made sure they had food. I did all of those things. I went to work for 20 hours in a day, sometimes 16 the other days. I worked 2 jobs, and yet I'm the ringleader of a band of hoodlums that went around robbing establishments in Vegas. That DA had liberty because of what I did in the service, because of people like me. And this is how you say thank you. You're gonna label me as a band leader of a leader of a band of hoodlums running around robbing Vegas. Everything that I've said and everything that they seen is in black and white. There is no denying this, but yet they still went forward the way they went forward. It doesn't matter. It's in black and white, it's on paper. I got it written down. Their words. But yet they still went forward with it like it was nothing. And this is how they labeled me. So, like I said, I hope to be able to find the direction and need, to be able to fight this and go back and help those individuals that I did leave behind.
extend. Cool, we're not doing too bad, y'all. So we got about 15 minutes worth of question and answer ability.
I'm Zenobia from Chicago. Comrade Leroy, was the woman accusing you of African descent?
You got to.
That was it. Okay, thank you.
Can you finish your answer? You were saying she was what?
She was Hispanic and white.
Or what is Hispanic? Just trying to-
Latino
Latino,
and white.
And Latino, I mean, that covers the whole.
Mexican and white.
Mexican.
Yeah.
Uhuru. Conrad, when you were speaking about the Uhuru 3 and the system, what came to me is the 3 bears and the wolf. The wolf is the system, and the 3 bears are the 3 Chairman Jesse and Comrade Penny Hess. And when they blow the house down, they won't get 3 bears running away. They will get 3 bears carrying the Uhuru movement behind them. Uhuru.
Actually made those bears in that story.
Oh, everybody. I wanted to say that I'm glad that you're here with us. There's many reasons that the prison system operates the way that it does, but one reason is because it wants to separate and take people from our community so that you can't be here to contribute. So I appreciate you being out and being here to make things. I also wanted to say thank you to the rest of the panel. Thank you to everybody for this weekend, and salute to my leadership. I'm here with ANWO, which is the African National Women's Organization. We are part of the Uhuru movement. So with that, I just wanted to amplify some of the discussion around genocide, specifically with the CPS system. So thank you for touching on that. And with kind of the theme of how we dove into the history, I wanted to draw that comparison of how the CPS system operates from taking African children from their families and then being sold. We can see how that mirrors chattel slavery. We can see that direct connection there. So I wanted to amplify that part of it. And there's a more insidious piece of it as well. You spoke about the impact of when you were separated from your family. So thank you for being open and sharing that with us. We can see how this impacts African families when they are separated, and we can see why that is a function of genocide. And a huge part of that is the socialization process. There's a quote that's like, when you lose your identity, it becomes easier for people to tell you who you are. And that's a huge part of what happens when we see African children are taken and then brought into white colonial homes, raised with a colonial mindset. They forget who they are, they forget their families, their connection, their culture. And that is a huge function of that genocide because they don't want us to be plugged into that community. So I just wanted to amplify that conversation around genocide, around the CPS practices. And thank you to the panel for raising that. Okay.
I just wanted to just say something real quickly since the sister brought up about CPS and also their brother. I just want to say that what you went through is the reason that the Uhuru movement together, they can't really come at us so easily when we are together, but that's the reason that we have the Uhuru movement, so that we can be there for each other and make sure that we get some semblance of justice while we also are fighting for complete control over every aspect of our lives. So thank you again for sharing that. Also, I just want to say the sister mentioned CPS, that a comrade of ours, Amanda Wallace, who's with the Black is Back Coalition, she's with Operation Stop CPS. they're coming after her too, arrested her and all of that. So we just need to, she's gonna inform us more in terms of what's going on, but I just wanted to say that as well. And one other thing I might want to say, oh, Brother Diop.
I was struck by one thing that comrade. My name is Diop Olubala. I'm based in Philadelphia and a long-time supporter, if not member of NPW, but I just wanted to really speak to something comrade Leroy raised. And first of all, your story is, obviously not uncommon. That's a big problem, the reason why we're here. And I do think it's important that as we engage in these struggles, I guess we could call them legal struggles, but it's important that we do not find ourselves being in a position where we have to apologize for being oppressed and exploited. You know what I mean? Because whether or not you had a job or not is not your decision anyway. You know what I mean? And this type of slander that they try to inflict on Africans, as they do that as a way to justify the state. The way it does that to justify its own existence, to say we're doing this because Africans is evil, criminal, etc. But it's important that as we raise these legal struggles, that we raise up the political question in terms of exposing the dictatorship that in which the state commits what we would definitely refer to as crimes, described as crimes all the time. Even the whole industry that Las Vegas is built on, stolen land and exploiting Africans for resources through the tourism, gambling industry, et cetera, et cetera. These are things that the masses need to be clear on in terms of who the real criminal is and the basis of the poverty and lack of resources that they use as some type of justification to criminalize you. And so an African that, let's say, you was running around robbing crackers, they would call you a criminal for doing so. But it's important that our movement politicize that question and to raise the question of the primitive accumulation, the parasitism, the white community enjoying our resources as a consequence of robbing the African community, etc. But that's not something that you can do as an individual. And too many times Africans in these individual types of situations find ourselves having to, you hear these rappers denouncing gangs and stuff as a way to get the favor of the state and all that. It comes down to the same question of Africans being isolated and denied, lacking any type of ability or consciousness to defend who we are and our struggle to be free of oppression, and understanding that oppression is the basis for what they would try to characterize as criminal activity. So I think that's important. And this is not to say or to justify or promote horizontal crime. That's important to say as well. We're not in this to teach each other how to rob and steal and kill each other, etc. But more so, but rather to get organized, to build a movement to expose who the real criminal is, as we do through the tribunal. So I just wanted to contribute that, and I think that should be part of the narrative that we always push as we wage these struggles for the release of African prisoners. Uhuru.
Hold on. I really want to express appreciation for the comments that Comrade Diop just made. Because you don't get out of this by proving you're a good Negro. Doesn't matter, don't give a damn. They know what your name is. They come at your ass because you colonized. I just think it's really important to remember that. And yeah, if there's a village to get a lawyer and deal, we do all of that stuff, but not with some kind of assumption that you've been good, therefore they shouldn't have done this to you. You ain't no better than nobody else. All of us are in this hell because we are colonized. And so to try to, what you end up trying to do is disassociate yourself from the rest of the Black people who are locked up, like somehow there's something wrong with them, but something right with you. That ain't the way it works. It really isn't. And I hope, Brother Leroy, that you don't find this offensive and disappointing, because I cannot say anything to you that will uphold the system. I just can't. Wouldn't be a system if it hadn't been for the enslavement of African people. The first person they kidnapped, put on the board, wasn't because they were robbing hotels in Vegas. It did it because it was profitable. They set up a whole system based on that. That's the thing that I would try to win you to. And to the extent I can win you to that, I can win, hopefully, you to a process that unites you with all the other Africans who are in that prison who need to get out, who don't need to be locked up because they're colonized, because the system works against them. This is going to be the way we get out of this situation. We're not going to be able to make it. And hopefully we can get a case, win it with this case. Look at George Jackson. You know who George Jackson was, don't you? He was 19, if I'm not mistaken. Or he was arrested for something so-called $19 crime. And he ends up dying in prison. Look at Mafunde Lake. I mean, the people who we know, look at it. And I'm not talking about innocence, you know, because it's nothing to brag about that we are innocent in some ways, conceptually, because the system is guilty. If the criminal put you in, criminal makes the law. Right. And then Las Vegas, they're saying somebody running around a gang of robbers, and Las Vegas is a gang of robbers. That's what they mean when they say the house always wins. You understand? You go there, you lose. Yeah. And you know, the slot machine, you just got all lemons. Just now, the thing is, that's the kind of thing it's really important for us to understand. So we want you to win this case, obviously. Right. But one thing that has to happen, in my view, to help you win this case is that we expose the fact, not that they got a video, let's get that information too, but the fact that they lock your ass up, video or not. Right. That they do this to Black people, that's the way this stuff works. And you're one of them who got caught up in that because the law doesn't matter, and this is the example of how the law doesn't matter. I think that's one of the things that we have going for us, and will have going for us in this case. And I think it's important. You know, last night, we were talking and somebody raised the question of it's really important to try to win as many people as we can in the struggle against colonialism. That's fundamentally important to do that. And somebody raised the question whether the political line really means that much. And I'm saying the line means a hell of a lot. Yeah. I'm saying that in fact, if the line didn't mean anything, you couldn't make a distinction between Dedan Kimati and Jomo Kenyatta or the others. The neo-colonial forces in Kenya were scared to death of Mau Mau. What was it about Mau Mau that made him afraid? When they heard said Uhuru, every oppressor in the world hates that term. Here comes the Uhuru. Yeah. Mau Mau, Uhuru, and they were afraid of the notion of being free. So you got some Africans who were living in Kenya, work with the British to keep Africans in Kenya colonized. And then you had those who were saying Uhuru. There was a particular political line that distinguished this group from the other group. And I think that's critically important for us to say there is no victory in submission. You know, the thing is that even when you can have a strategy, a tactic or something, or even to appear so, you know, that you've been subdued with the intent, with the objective, with the plan, you know, to get out of the system. So I hate what they've done to you. And I know what the hell you mean to be sitting up with these clowns. And you know, who was it? There was somebody else who made this a similar statement that Lisa, who was talking about being there at the United Nations and this African woman giving her, you know, a problem. And her, you know, intent or desire to tell her, you wouldn't be here if it weren't for me. And what she's meaning is they had to put that Black woman there because of the struggles for Black people, you understand? And I think that's a critical thing, you know, that we understand, that we incorporate into our own consciousness. Ain't nothing wrong with you, brother. Wasn't nothing wrong with you whether you went to the Air Force or not. Something might have been wrong when you went to the Air Force. I know something was wrong with me when I joined the U.S. military, fighting against people who ain't never done nothing against me. Something was wrong with me. They had control of my brain. Nothing wrong with you. And I think that's going to have to be the starting point in terms of how you get out of this stuff, recognizing and being able to accept the fact, ain't nothing wrong with you, ain't nothing wrong with your neighbors or anything like that. And nothing wrong with the Mexicans either. I want to say that. And I think it's important to say that too, because the Mexicans are living under colonial domination just like we are. Something wrong with snitches, whether they're Mexican, Africans, white, Filipinos, snitches, you understand? So, but ain't nothing wrong with the Mexicans, ain't nothing wrong with Africans. We have our own mission. That's what we have to be cognizant of as a people. For all our liberation. That means out of prisons and everything as well. So I'm glad to see you, Brother Leroy.
Yeah.
I'm glad to meet you. I'm really impressed by the fact that you seem to have a strong will to win and to fight. You understand? We just got to know what we're fighting for, what we're fighting against, and we have been in much better stead. So good to see you. Uhuru.
All right, so that that concludes this this panel. What we're going to do now is that brings us to the reading of the Sanctuary City Resolution by Alderman Jesse Todd, and then after that we will bring that up for a vote. You can find the Sanctuary City Resolution inside your packets. It should be the last document inside.
Uhuru comrades, I love to be called the people's alderman. So my name is Jesse Todd. I'm the known as the people's alderman, and I want to say, Uhuru, Uhuru, Uhuru! All power to the people, and black power to the African people. First of all, I want to thank that comrade, that brother, and the sisters in the panel for saying that these bogus charges. And I want to thank all of you for, and I'm going to read this Dred Scott resolution, and you're going to see where this government doesn't respect the rights of Africans. It has never respected the rights of Africans. In fact, I'm going to start reading where it says that the Dred Scott City Refuge Resolution for the city of St. Louis. Whereas Dred and Harriet Scott sought and were denied refuge from enslavement in the city of St. Louis, Missouri in 1846, and were told that by the United States Supreme Court that they had no rights, that the white man has to respect. It was then in St. Louis, it was then in America, it was then all over Africa, and we still have no rights that the white man has to respect. For example, whereas the cities of St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Petersburg, Florida, allowed their police departments to collaborate with the FBI and conduct unjust, violent military raids on the homes and offices of the African people. Those were violent raids. On January the 6th, they had the Proud Boy, they had all this other group, all these right-wing groups. I didn't see one time where the FBI came in kicking down doors and harassing people. And even they don't even respect their own rules they have. For example, the Fourth Amendment says that they're not supposed to hold people, but they held some of our comrades for for almost 6 hours at gunpoint. They held, all of that wasn't necessary. Not one time have I ever walked in here, and I've been searched. I mean, when I was being an alderman, I would say everybody says so. There's no history of the Uhuru movement or the African People's Socialist Party or the Solidarity Committee being involved in any kind of violence, and the FBI knew that, but they were just violating the rights, holding people. They violated the rights, the Fourth Amendment, where they went through papers and stuff and took stuff and didn't, they didn't follow the Constitution. 13th Amendment says that you're not supposed to hold people. 14th Amendment says that we have equal, that talk about the equal protection of the law. They don't, how is that equal when the example of the comrade from Vegas, as well as the 14th Amendment, where if it were equal protection, they would have treated the Uhuru movement and the Solidarity movement the same. They treated those people in January the 5th who said just took over the White House and tried to lynch and kill people, but they didn't do that. So they don't. We do not have equal protection. They do not follow the law. In fact, and then whereas historically, there are countless examples of the city government covertly and overtly collaborating with the federal agencies to attack African community leaders, such as Fred Hampton, who was assassinated in Chicago in 1969. Keep in mind, Chicago was the Democratic machine. I was part of the Democratic machine. The Chicago did under Richard Daley Sr. during that time. At the same time, they came in after taking Black people votes. And that's what got Kennedy in office, in fact, was Illinois. He had lost the election until they counted the votes in Illinois, and that's how he won. But then they come right back. And then a lynch. I call this a lynching. Here you come in with a bunch of people and just kill somebody, and nothing, and didn't anything happen. So they don't have rights that any right we have to respect. Whereas the numerous examples of city and state governments complicit with the FBI and other militarized and federal forces include the attack on the Pine Ridge Reservation in the 1970s, where they killed at least 67 people and framed up the heroic political prisoner Leonard Peltier, who remains in jail right now. Here they killed 67 people and then turn around on native soil and then frame him up. Now, who is the person that should be? That shows they have, again, the Native Americans have no rights that this government has to respect. Whereas the Stop Cop City protester, Lord G.R., was murdered and the movement attacked by the Atlanta City Corporation with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the FBI as the movement was defending the forest on stolen land of the Muskogee people, lands which had been used as for farmers and convict leasing farm. Stop the Cop City movement is fighting to prevent the forest from being used as a police training ground against the African and oppressed people. Several people, they've charged them with terrorism, making up all these other charges, got them in jail, all kinds of things. So they're not respecting, it's a lot of people, groups who are trying to change society are being just rounded up. Whereas the frame up of political prisoner, Muhammad Jamal, continues, and we acknowledge the 11 African men, women, and children who were murdered at the move home in 1985 by firebombing by Philadelphia police in collaboration with FBI and they had a C-4 plane, which the FBI let them have. And then again, that's a Democratic city, a Democratic African mayor. So it's not just, so it's African mayor again, whereas the Arab and Muslim people in the US have been targeted by the FBI, including through entrapment geared to lock them up for years, such as the cases of the November 4, the Holly Land 5, the Fort Dix 5, and the and others. Here they are violating the constitutional rights. Again, the First Amendment gives you have a right to the religion of your choice, supposedly in this country. They persecuting the Muslims. A person because they're Arab. So Whereas students such as the Tampa Five are facing prison sentences for demonstrating at the University of South Florida against Florida's banning of the study of Black history. Here you have some, I think these are probably white students demonstrating, peacefully assembling. They lock them up and lock them up, tell them you can't protest about Black history. I mean, this is ridiculous, but that's what this government does. Whereas the FBI continued to attack the courageous whistleblower Julian Assange, who exposed the US government's secret crimes to the public. That's freedom of speech. He was just exposing some crime. Whereas activists and delegations returning from Cuba after participating in education and solidarity activities of harassment by Homeland Security. Again, people are traveling, peacefully assembling. Before Castro and the socialists took over, it was all kinds of decadence, unemployment and everything else, but they're gonna attack these citizens for enjoying their freedom, their right to travel. Whereas the July 29th raids on the Uhuru movement militarily occupied the most impoverished neighborhood of St. Louis and St. Petersburg, threatening Uhuru movement program fighting gentrification and building economic and political power in the Black working class community. That's why we were attacked. Political power. They don't want us to have political power. They want the neighborhood run down. They want the drugs in here. And then they holler about people selling drugs. Well, they created a drug economy and then bring the drugs in. Yeah. Whereas the African People's Socialist Party was targeted because it has relentlessly fought for the liberation of African people for the past 50 years. So they fought us because we stand up using our constitutional rights and improving the quality of life of this community. Whereas the FBI raids on the Uhuru movement pose a threat to the African community's hard-won democratic right to participate in elections in their own interest. They tell us to participate in elections, then they turn right back around and say that you're participating because some Russian or somebody else tell you to participate. I thought they advocated participating in the election, but I tell you, they don't know what they want. They just want to pick on us because we're Black. That's not an African. Whereas the African people have a right to petition the United Nations to investigate the genocide conviction as it applies to the condition of African people and the original sin of slavery and colonialism in this country. Again, the Constitution and First Amendment give us a right to petition. But they don't want that to happen. They want, but then when we use that, then they raid. Whereas African people and all those in the U.S. have the inalienable right to freedom of speech, association, and assembly, including public statements of dissent regarding the official position on the Russian-Ukraine war. Then when we use these rights, and that's all we were doing, they come up with some bogus charges. Whereas millions of African peoples in the 1960s struggling for human rights and economic and political power over their lives and faced the effective COINTELPRO program of the FBI, which carried out assassination and political imprisonment, slander, and harm. Whereas Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, along with W.B. Du Bois, James Baldwin, Aretha Franklin, Sam Cooke, and others were targeted, threatened, surveilled, and are assassinated by FBI and with the complicity of the local police. One of these people, including Fred Hampton, one of them advocated using violence, using guns to go out and do anything. We do have a right, the same rights under the Constitution everybody else has. Even if they don't think so, we're gonna fight for those rights. We're not gonna let them take them away because they don't respect them. We're gonna make them respect them. That's what we're gonna do. And whereas the FBI filed on the murder of activist Darren Seals, following the police murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014, revealed that the local police worked with the FBI to target him and others, and many say the murder Seals. Okay, and so Therefore, it be resolved that the city of blank will be a sanctuary city in which the city of blank police department and city government will refuse to cooperate with the FBI and federal agencies to attack Black community organizers and others for charges stemming from work for the betterment and upliftment of the community. In other words, we're just doing right here, working for the betterment and upliftment of the community. You can look outside, you saw it outside. We're opening up a doula program, and other programs, and so and businesses, and so and so we are uplifting the community. You can see all the improvements that are happening right now, but they are attacking us, and so that's all we're saying is we want to open up open up space so that we can do what the Constitution say we're supposed to do, and we're going to continue fighting and to remind them that we are going to stand for our constitutional rights, whether they like it or not. Blank city will become a city of refuge for African people and others struggling for social justice and solidarity with sanctuary programs, indigenous Mexican people, immigrants, and others seeking a safe haven to uplift their communities. Therefore, this resolution repudiates the denial of refuge to Dred and Harriet Scott and the ongoing notion that Black people have no rights, which the white man is bound to respect. So we do repudiate that, and they may not, and we pay taxes. We pay taxes to the politician. We pay taxes to every law enforcement agency and every public agency. We pay our taxes and they work for us, and we're not gonna let that. And when someone works for you, they're gonna do what we say, and we don't have any obligation to do what they say. According to the Constitution, they said no one is above the law. The United States Constitution is the highest law in the land. Law enforcement has sworn to uphold the law. They are paid by all the taxpayers. Everybody who go to the store shopping and doing other things, even if you don't have any money and you eat, somebody's buying their food, so they're paying taxes. And and so law enforcement should be held at a higher standard than the regular citizen, not at the same standard. That's the and the other thing is that this resolution was created because of the following. Because our freedom of religion, the freedom of religion has been denied to some people. For example, the Muslims. Freedom of speech has been denied to Uhuru 3 and the rest of us. The freedom of assembly has been denied to several organizations. The freedom of the press has been denied because they've been there taking the burning spirit. This resolution, what it does is protect all people who live and visit and refugees. This resolution also protects demands that the government, that the law enforcement live up to the 14th Amendment, which is equal protection under the law. It also opens up space so that we can improve the quality of life of our communities and stop the FBI and other law enforcement agencies from disrupting our organization, and stop the other agencies from trying to bully us, demonize us, slander us, jail us, and sometimes kill us. That's the purpose of the resolution. And where can people find this? You can just Google it. And you can use this as a model. It may need some tweaking, but what you can do is just Google it, read it, and make it fit the community where you are. And the other thing is that when you have and so the other thing is that the Dred Scott and Harriet resolution needs to be tweaked, need to be replicated everywhere we go. It may need a little tweaking, but it should be replicated. So basically, that's it. And so if you, okay, thank you very much. Uhuru, Uhuru, Uhuru. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, so we're gonna take the vote now.
Oh, okay.
So Uhuru, so everybody has a copy of the, oh, you can step here, Comrade, just in case they have any questions. So everybody has a copy of the resolution inside their packets. And Peter is moving to accept this resolution and then take the resolution out into our communities. And Peter, well, this is a process that Peter, New York is already engaging in. So we would like to acknowledge that as well. First off, I want to honor once again Comrade Jesse. And so let's honor Comrade Jesse. Because what Comrade Jesse did brilliantly is expose the hypocrisy of the colonial state in this process. So I just want to, I was on those two calls when the guy said they said they were going to do something, they were going to call it, then they went to the other meeting, then they said it was up to you to call it, and then the guy got to mumbling and jumbling about how he was part of CORE back in the 60s and all this other nonsense. He didn't say he walked with King. I'm surprised he didn't say he walked with King, but that's generally, whenever they're gonna make a move against African democratic rights, they say they walk with King or something like that, but they the ones who shot King. So that, just want to say that. So we do want to make a move to accept this, but first we want to open it up for questions on the resolution. If there's any questions on the resolution.
I think this resolution has to be experienced by this organization in the context of fighting back against an assault that's being made on our movement. And it is really important because what we've done is to take this resolution and then go to their institutions with it. It's not just that we have in our meetings like right here and where we can agree with each other, and we go into their institutions. We've taken the objective is to get everywhere we can, people going into their city governments and sometimes county and even state legislatures to present this as something that the government should vote on. There is a thing that they call sanctuary cities, where some cities, and I think even counties, and perhaps even some states will have voted that the local government, that their government is not going to participate with the feds in terms of harassing non-documented immigrants. They probably do that. So it's almost like having, like a Black Lives Matter in your front yard, right? Sign. And so what we're saying is we're employing the same logic here and then taking this to governments, your local government. Why can't your local city council person or your local alderperson present this to the city council or board of aldermen? Why can't that person do that? Saying, it's not asking anybody to break the law. It's saying that we are opposed to, we reject the idea that our local government right here in St. Louis, right here in Philadelphia, our local government refuses to participate with the feds. Feds don't know anything specific about what's happening in our community. We do, we live here. So we're saying that our local government will refuse to cooperate with the federal government in attacks on anybody who's organizing to try to betterment and uplift the African community. That's it. And then I think what happens is we use this It's open. We want to present this to everybody in the whole country. Anybody can do this. They don't have to be a member of NPM. Anybody can do this and find out what the procedure is for getting such a thing before your city council and do it. That's what the call is. That's a pushback. That's making them. And it brings the FBI into a different light. Right now, the FBI is in this place where it's saying we are the criminals. So we get a movement here of people going to their institutions, asking their institution to prohibit the FBI for attacking Black people and others who are trying to uplift our communities. Let that argument occur.
Right.
You see what we're saying? It puts them on the back foot. Let them explain, well, maybe it didn't happen that way. Maybe we shouldn't, but don't just give them the free space to say that we are criminals, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of what this is. It moves and mobilizes a larger mass of people, groups and organizations, city love us, right? To go before their city council, their local governments, et cetera, and then push for this. So I just think it can be it's a very powerful resolution. Jesse Todd went up against these wolves here locally. I mean, it was really nasty, and he was fighting by himself in terms of all these forces in the local government. Liars. It comes out, it proves they're liars. Yeah. A Black woman who was an alderperson said, yeah, they got these great programs. I know they do great work. Every Saturday when the weather's good, I come out to participate in the market and they have great stuff and then won't support the resolution. This is the stuff that we do that changes the narrative altogether and change the political terrain where we live. So I just want to say I appreciate this resolution, and I really appreciate Comrade Peoples Oliver. That's right, he's the Peoples Oliver. This is part of deepening the counteroffensive, because it's their law. Comrade, say it again. What's the name of the brother? Wait a minute, don't tell me. That's because I think every time I hear his name, I think of this old song that somebody might remember. What's the song? Leroy, bad Leroy. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is what we do. This is their law. This is your law. This is your process. This is your system, etc. We didn't go and attack the city council or anything like that, or all board up. We came there and say, okay, here is a measure that we want to introduce. Then let the whole African people, the whole African community, and everybody experience this process. What we are doing is putting them on trial when we do that. They want to put us on trial, then we're putting them on trial. Right, so I just think that's really good. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
So given that the FBI's AOR is international, is there a possibility that this will be bigger to expand it to the international arena? Where you can ask the countries or the small movements, the masses there, to reject participation of the FBI in their countries based on this.
I would say that it already, in terms of hands off Uhuru, we have Comrade Janelle in Jamaica who actually, even before the resolution had done precisely what you're saying. So I think that's absolutely correct, because of course we got this thing called posse comitatus, and armies aren't supposed to be acting upon people here in the United States. We see that happens, but also they also tell you that the FBI is just jurisdictions just within the United States. But you're absolutely correct. They going in inside Africa, inside the Caribbean, inside the Philippines, and acting alongside local law enforcement as a law enforcement agency imposed upon other places. So what happens is that there was something going on. Someone famous got robbed or something like that in Jamaica, and Usain Bolt. They took all his money out of his bank account or something like that, and that was used the guys to bring in the FBI to Jamaica. So Comrade Janelle of Deepening in Jamaica did the campaigns precisely of what you're speaking of. So I think and the names of Hands Off Uhuru lifted up the Hands Off Uhuru campaign, the attack against the Uhuru movement to raise the specter in Jamaica that the FBI can never be something that solves the problems for African workers in Jamaica. But I think part of that also is attached to a political campaign in which people in Jamaica understand that they are African people and that the FBI is a part of a larger colonial assault against African people. If a person thinks of themselves, I guess, as some Jamaican getting attacked by crooks or something like that, then I guess that could open the door to other forms of colonial, neo-colonial intervention. So, I mean, I think in terms of an international campaign, that's right on. That's right on. I appreciate that question.
Just wanted to say I'm Duku, impediment member with New York and New Jersey.
Appreciate that intervention too, and I think it helps us to understand the significance of being an international organization, being an all-African universal, organization. That's a critical question because it's not just you saying both. It's FBI is in Haiti, from Haiti, you understand, and other places, and it's not just the people. Even though we put it a certain way, the reality is that these are not police organizations that's cooperating with the FBI. The FBI is the leadership. The feds are the leadership. And you see the FBI in Kenya, the FBI is leading that. It's a neo-colonial relationship that we're exposing when we do that. So yeah, we want that. Let the Kenyan government, let all these other governments have to explain why they're participating, with these entities. And the FBI is the one we're talking about now, but you're talking about Africa, all these other kind of entities that's deployed against Black people due to US federal intervention in our communities everywhere. So thank you so much, Uhuru. The people are the power. I really just want us we have to understand the power is in the people. As smart as we are as individuals, the thing that they feel more than anything else. I mean, why would they be afraid of me? Except some possible relationship I have with masses of people, the ideas, the organization thing, the people. That's the critical question. And that's what we have to mobilize. And that's what this resolution does. It puts it now in the possession of the people, takes it out of the dark. It's not in our community meetings where it might be 20 people, 30 people in that meeting. They take it to the government, put it in their system. It's recorded on their systems, et cetera, et cetera. This is what we want to do. And then that puts it in the possession of the people. That's the thing that they're concerned about. That's why they raided us. Why didn't they raid us at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon? They raided us before dawn, where people can't see. And because we have a relationship with the people, shut up. That's what they're saying. Shut up. Don't say anything to the people, right? The people are the critical factors, and we should never forget that.
All right, so now I move that we call a vote for this petition. Does anybody second that motion?
I second the motion.
All right, so we are going to have lunch at 1. But what we wanted to do is to move towards our branch building workshop, branch building and outreach workshop. Lunch will be here at 1, but I did want to take just a 5-minute intermission to get set up for our branch building workshop. So who are everybody?